So last night I sat down and I got together all of the movies in my collection that I haven't seen, that I bought from like the Dollar Tree or subscribers have sent me or whatever. I have a lot of those movies, probably, I don't know, like 50 of them or something. I have a lot. More than that, probably. Because I didn't go through like action comedy and all that. I only went through horror. So I probably have like over 100. But this is one I got from the Dollar Tree. And I'm a big found footage fan. When it's done well, I really enjoy it. And of course, like any movie, if it's done bad or poorly, I don't care for it. Unless it's a fun bad, of course. And a buddy of mine, Paul Shunk, who is a found footage fanatic, loved this movie. And it stars Jeremy Sisto. And it also has Kate Ashfield in it. And I'm not a super big Shaun of the Dead fan. Like, I don't dislike it. I don't love it like everybody does. It's just kind of whatever. And so last night, I actually watched Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. And I was going to watch The World's End. I bought all three of them to watch that whole Coronado trilogy to talk about it here on the channel. And I just watched this, and I didn't make that decision to watch the Shaun of the Dead or whatever until after this. And as I said, I'm not super familiar with that. So when it came on, I was watching it, and it was like, Kate Ashfield. I was like, wait a minute, what? So yeah, the chick, his girlfriend in Shaun of the Dead, is the wife in this movie. Had no clue. The connections were there at all, and I just so happened to watch them back to back, which was fucking crazy to me. Just crazy. When I saw the name, I was like, what are the odds? What are the odds? So, Hangman. Now this is, as I said, it says it's inspired by true events, but that doesn't really have to mean anything. That literally doesn't have to mean anything. So I don't know what that means. I didn't look it up. But it's a found footage style movie. And it's about a guy who breaks into people's houses, and he lives up in their attic, and he watches them. He puts in cameras, and he kind of lives in their life without them knowing it. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much essentially it. Kind of like a 14 cameras or 13 cameras. 14 cameras is the sequels, right? Yeah. So 13 cameras, then 14 cameras. And 388 Arletta Avenue, and we've seen plenty of these. So this isn't anything new. And I think that's what I would say about this movie. There's nothing new in this movie. Everything that you've seen before. Some things are more effective than others. I definitely like how bold the killer is in this movie. Like, he's not really hiding himself much. He is very daring. He gets as close to them as he possibly can throughout the movie. He does not shy away from, like sneaking into the room while they're sitting there and getting as close as he possibly can to them, like he wants to be part of the family. But he's also like ready to kill at a moment's notice. This guy has no fear. This guy is not worried about them finding out that he's there. I mean, he doesn't want them to. I mean, he wants to play this as long as he wants to, but he's also like ready at a moment's notice for this to go down. And I liked that. So the killer was interesting to me because he was so bold. And I don't feel like I see that bold of killers in the movies. These kinds of movies. They're usually very like worried that the people are going to find out. They keep very far distances. And then, of course, as the film progresses, they get a little more bold and a little more bold. This guy's bold from the get-go, man. He's just like lounging around their house, watching their TV, kicking his shoes off, all that shit. And you're like, oh, okay, that's what's going on here. He's just part of the family. And yes, as I said, he doesn't want to get caught, but at the same time, he's not that worried about getting caught. So that was easily the most interesting part of the movie for me. Just every time he kept getting closer, I'm like, geez, there's no way they're not going to find him this time. Like, how could they not? But they played out pretty well to where, they just miss him. They just turn this way instead of that way when they could have saw him here and there. And I dug that about the movie. Other than that, the kills are fairly lame. The ending is expected. Nothing really interesting happens there. But overall, I liked it. I didn't love it. but I did enjoy it enough. I think if you're a found footage fan, somebody who likes that stationary camera, creepy guy in the house kind of movie, like the aforementioned titles, I think it's a fair or good addition to this kind of subgenre, I suppose, a subgenre of found footage, the home invasion, voyeuristic guy. The characters in it, for me, are okay. I think that's where it probably struggles the most, is that it takes the Paranormal Activity 2, because that's kind of what it reminds me of. There's a break-in at the beginning, so they install a security system, but at the same time, the guy installs cameras in the same kinds of locations that Paranormal Activity 2 does, but they're not aware of these cameras, right? So it has that kind of setup like Paranormal Activity 2, except for they're not installing the cameras. He is, and then we watch everything through his cameras like they would. But the characters for me are just a basic average family, which if this was real found footage, I think that this would be about accurate, because the family isn't all that interesting to me. Really, the majority of the interest in this film comes from the killer and the killer's antics. You know, just watching him what he's doing, waiting for him to kind of come out of the shadows, what he's going to do when other people come in or find what he's doing or whatever. That's the interest in the movie. That's the intrigue, is the killer. So you're relying on the killer completely. The characters, the family itself, there's a couple cute moments, like the dad finds something in the daughter's room that's embarrassing, and so that creates a little bit of comedic or comedy, I suppose, for like a second. The relationships between the kids and the dad and all of that, it feels real, like for the most part, but like a boring reel, like a too real. You know what I mean? It's not interesting. There's not enough character there to where I'm really all that interested in them. And I'm not really caring what happens to them much. I don't dislike them, because as I said, they're real enough that I'm like, all right, I mean, I don't want this family to die. But I'm not invested emotionally, where it's like a character from a movie where like, oh man, I really like this character. They're witty and they're funny and they're charming and they're likable. And no, those kinds of things don't really happen. So I think that they would have focused a little more on their characters, had more going on in their lives that were interesting, and kind of played off of what was happening in their attic. It would have worked out better. But overall, it's a fine film. So let me know. As I said, I got this at the Dollar Tree for $1, you know, obviously for $1, but a Blu-ray copy of it, which a film like this does not need a Blu-ray. It's freaking found security footage, so the quality is kind of shit as it is. But there you go, Hangman. Let me know if you've seen it. Adios.